Hi, my name is Sister Mary Gianna, and I am here at the Ark and the Dove. In light of the recent school shootings, we may feel helpless and uncertain on how to respond to such tragedies. As a survivor of a school shooting, I have found the best way to respond to these tragedies is by counteracting the culture of death by building a civilization of love and a culture of life. I was 16 years old and a sophomore at Columbine High School the day two of my schoolmates opened fire, killing 12 students, one teacher, wounding 23 others before taking their own lives. I would have been in the center of the tragedy. However, minutes before the shooting, I had this overpowering urge to leave school. Normally, I would go to the library to study during my lunch hour. Every day for 2 years, I went to the library to study. However, on April 20th of 1999, I was sitting in my art class right before lunch when all of a sudden I had this overwhelming urge to leave school. Just over and over in my head kept repeating, there's no way that I'm staying here. There's no way that anyone's going to talk me into staying. Just this urge to leave, and I felt in such a hurry to leave. Normally, I'd meet my friend Rebecca at her locker, we would go to my locker, and then we would go to the library. I was in such a hurry, I bypassed her locker, went to my locker, and somehow ran into her in front of the library. I ended up talking her into leaving with me. And so we walked out of school, we got in my car, and as we're driving away from school, I looked in my rearview mirror and noticed hundreds and hundreds of my schoolmates running out of the school. I soon found out that there had been a shooting at my high school and that most of the shootings happened in the library, where I was every other day but that one day. I wondered, what made me leave school that day? I always went to the library. Why that one day? And I remember being told, that was God. He must have a plan for your life. And so I realized God did exist and that He had a plan, but I didn't know who God was. Growing up without any faith, I really struggled with all that happened at my high school. I struggled with the great suffering, darkness, the evil that I sensed in the world. And so I turned to many other things to fulfill me, but everything I filled my life with left me more empty and only led to more consequences. And so it was in the aftermath of everything that happened at my high school that I just fell into utter despair, into great hopelessness. And it was in those moments when I completely lost hope and felt like there was no reason to continue on, that one of my friends invited me to the Catholic Church, where I began to experience God's love and that He did have a plan. Immediately upon walking in, I met a youth minister that was so bright, so full of life, that I could tell she had something in her life that was missing in mine. And she started telling me about a God that passionately loved me. And as she shared God's love and that He had a great plan, God's love just poured through her. And I realized all my life I had been longing to know God and His love, and that He would be the only one that would ultimately fulfill me. I love the words of St. Augustine. Our hearts are restless until they rest in God. I realized that not only did God lead me out of Columbine that day, He was leading me to Himself. And I wanted to discover with all my heart what His plan was. And so I decided I want to live for Christ. I want to give Him my entire life. And so I decided to become Catholic and give my life to Christ. And I went to Franciscan University of Steubenville, where I was immersed in the Catholic faith. And at the Easter Vigil my freshman year, at the age of 19, I was baptized, confirmed, and received First Holy Communion. And never had I experienced so much joy and peace. I felt I was home and I was excited for this new life that God has called me to. And so as I've said yes to God and His plan for my life, I've been so amazed how He has continued to lead me and guide me in the full and abundant life that He has called us to. And so God in His love, He's taken me from a place of great hopelessness and despair to a full and abundant life in Him. He's given me such a desire to embrace life to the fullest and help lead others to the fullness of life. And so that's what we're about here at the Ark and the Dove. We want to transform the culture through the power of the Holy Spirit. It was over 50 years ago, in 1967, that a group of college students came here on retreat from Duquesne University. And their theme was on the Holy Spirit. And they asked the Holy Spirit to really empower them like the first apostles did at that first Pentecost. And so the Holy Spirit came upon them in a very powerful way here in this chapel. And they experienced this great outpouring and release of God's love in their life. And so from this small beginning has led to this huge tidal wave of graces for the church, for the world. And so what happened was these young people shared the gift that they received here. They shared this good news with their friends, who shared it with their friends, which has spread throughout the world. Over 120 million Catholics have experienced this grace of baptism in the Holy Spirit. And since 1975, beginning with Pope Paul VI, all the popes since then have affirmed the Catholic charismatic renewal as a gift to the church. And so here at the Ark and the Dove, we are forming missionary disciples to continue the work that Jesus himself accomplished when he walked on the earth. We are providing life-changing retreats, evangelization training, a Holy Spirit boot camp, a school of healing, a school for worship leaders, and so much more. Both the young and the old alike are receiving the power and the gifts of the Holy Spirit to make them fully alive in God. We want to form as many missionary disciples as possible. We want to transform the culture by the power of the Holy Spirit. It all began here over 50 years ago, and that grace is here for us today. Let us be open to all that God has for us. Let us be open to this grace of baptism in the Holy Spirit. It only took 12 people to influence millions of people's lives. Let us continue to say yes to God and respond to the Holy Spirit in our lives to reach even more souls. It is time for a new revolutionary move of God to sweep over this land once again. Join us in rebuilding a civilization of love and a culture of life, in forming missionary disciples excited to share the good news of God's love, to heal the brokenhearted, to open the eyes of the blind, and to set the captives free. This is our call. This is our mission. Partner with us to make it happen.